Hi everyone. Welcome to the Navigator's Log. I'm Troy Harrison, the Sales Navigator, and this is your guide to what's going on in the world of sales and sales leadership. A few things before we get started. First of all, remember to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell so you get the notifications when I post new stuff, because I'm posting great new sales content all the time. You don't want to miss any of it. Secondly, just a little bit of a programming note. If you're sitting there going, didn't this show used to be called Sales Without the BS? Yes, it did. I decided to make some changes, and I've actually dropped the ball on getting this show going again, mea culpa. But I wanted to make sure it was a little bit more on brand and a little bit more in tune with what I'm doing and how I'm helping companies build sales and how I can help you. So with all of that said, I got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about some incredibly valuable topics. Our main issue today is going to be something you're really going to want to know about, because it is solving one of the biggest problems that we have in sales right now, which is how the hell do we get a hold of our people to prospect them? We're going to have from my feed, and as usual, we're going to have three things that have inspired me from across my social media feed. Those things are an acronym that really describes one of the most counterproductive sales philosophies that I've ever known. We're going to talk about the role of people versus the role of technology in customer service, and we're going to talk about a good and effective sales follow-up routine. And then finally, in your quick win, I'm going to show you the rule of three, so it's worth hanging on for that. So, without further ado, let's get started in the Navigator's Log with our main issue for today. And our main issue, I want to talk about one of the most vexing issues that affects salespeople right now, and that is, how do we prospect? And look, everybody knows the different methods of prospecting, right? We all know how to pick up the phone, make a phone call. We all know how to pull a door. Hopefully you know how to use LinkedIn to prospect, at least somewhat. And I'll probably do a webinar on that within the next few months on that very topic, because it is a big topic and it evolves all the time. But one of the most vexing issues is in teleprospecting, because there's been a really substantive change in teleprospecting, and that is that people answer the phone much less than they used to. Had an illustration of that a couple of weeks ago. A guy called me, and I've known him for about 10 years. He's never been a client, but he wanted to become a client. And he said, Troy, I'd like you to come down to my location. He's in the South, and deliver a half-a-day program on prospecting to my salespeople, because, man, they just need to get the message. They're just not getting it done anymore. We're not getting appointments. Well, I know this about his company. I know his sales role is a very high prospecting role, and his salespeople, as a matter of fact, that's all they do is prospect. They call, they set new appointments, they go out, they handle the appointments, they sign up new customers, and then they move on to the next. No account management responsibilities whatsoever. And so I asked him, I said, well, okay, what are your metrics? Tell me what metrics you're working with. He said, well, we require our salespeople to do 5 initial appointments per week. Basically, we're looking for 1 per day. Get in front of 1 new customer or prospect per day. Now, that's reasonable. I said, well, okay. What about any other metrics? Calling? He goes, yeah, we require him to get to their 1 appointment per day. We require him to make 30 calls per day. And that's a number that has historically worked out well. He said, as a matter of fact, usually if they're making 30 calls per day, they're getting more than 1 appointment per day. A lot of our guys used to get 6, 7, 8 appointments per week. I said, well, that's pretty good. What are you seeing now? And I don't know exactly what I was expecting. But here's what he told me. He said, well, all my people are doing is leaving voicemails nowadays, it seems. I said, well, you've got CRM, right? Yep, got CRM. I said, okay. Are they hitting their call numbers? In other words, are they dialing the phone 30 times just like they used to? He said, well, yeah, but he said they used to talk to people, and now all they do is leave voicemails. Okay. He just told me what his problem actually was. His problem wasn't that his people were putting out less effort on the phone, and his problem wasn't that his people weren't saying the right things when they got a hold of people. He did say that they were typically getting 1 to 3 appointments per week, and all of that is indicative of one central issue, which is his prospects aren't answering the phone anymore. And I even said that to him. I said, here's the deal. I said, it's not an issue of training. If your salespeople are leaving lots more voicemails, that means that they're not talking to as many prospects as before. But if they're still getting appointments, it means they're probably doing somewhat as good of a job when they do talk to people as they used to. So your problem this isn't a training issue. I can't teach your salespeople any technique that will make their customers pick up the phone and answer when they don't know who it is that's calling. Because look, we all do it, right? I mean, the phone rings and we go, I don't know who they are. Or worse, spam risk or telemarketer. I've had 8 of those so far today, and I'm videoing this at 1:30. So yeah, it's people answer their phone a lot less. And I told him, I said, what's happened is not that your salespeople have lost their skills, or that they're putting out less effort. The problem is that your customers have changed. And the fact that your customers have changed means that we need to do a deeper look at what's going on. We need to find out different ways for your salespeople to get a hold of customers. And I suggested that we do a consulting project on his customer base and figure out what was going on. He said, well, okay, I'll think, and I gave him some specifics. He said, well, okay, I'll give this a little bit of thought. Let me call you back in a couple of days. Well, he called me back in a couple of days. He was good as his word. And he said, well, thought about it, and I just told him to work harder. They're going to get fired. Whew, okay. Even I can't win them all, guys. But what that means is that, what it really means, because I guess he told him this in a group meeting, what means is that there's probably 5 salespeople tuning up their resumes right now and getting ready to go somewhere else. Here's the problem. Customers truly have changed. The habits of customers, not just the buying habits, but even the conversational habits of customers have changed. And when those habits changed, we as salespeople have to figure out how to change with them. And there's a few easy answers to this, but the problem is there's no easy button. I'm going to tell you what I normally get back as those easy answers. I'm going to tell you why that may not even work. And first easy answer is, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and blanket out a bunch of emails. Mass email and cold email prospecting sucks nowadays. It truly sucks because your response rates are just infinitesimal. And a lot of times what'll happen is it actually gets you blocked more than it gets you an opportunity to talk to people. It used to be that it was said in direct mail that if you got 1% to 2% response rate, you were doing really well. And for a long time, mass email was the same way, which meant that if you sent out 100 emails, you could count on getting 1 or 2 responses out of that. Most email marketers nowadays would just dream. They would die of joy if they got a 1% to 2% response rate. I've seen people actually bragging about stats of sending out thousands of emails and getting 4 or 5 responses from them. But a lot of times what happens is it can get you blocked as spam. It can actually damage not only your ability to email people, but your entire company's, because when you get blocked and reported as spam enough, it actually affects everybody sending from your domain to that domain and other domains. So I just don't recommend mass emailing nowadays. I think email is great once you get a certain level of contact established and a certain rapport established. Hell, I've set 3 appointments today already through email, but those are by people that I've had contact with otherwise. Another method that you hear about, and I'll be frank, you'll hear about it from me, is social media. LinkedIn. I'll be specific because most of my work's in the B2B world. You'll hear about LinkedIn, and that is okay. We're going to attempt to form relationships on LinkedIn. Well, first of all, a lot of people do this wrong. They connect with somebody, and then as soon as the connection is accepted, then they just hit them with a big old hard sell pitch. And a lot of times that can get you at least disconnected and at the worst blocked. The way to form relationships on LinkedIn is, believe it or not, form relationships with people. That means you've got to engage with them. You comment on their stuff. You can even respond to their comment on other people's stuff. But start getting a dialogue going online that is in a non-threatening way. Start actually building relationship and affinity with them, so that when you get to the point of wanting to reach out for a contact or for an appointment, they have a little bit of an affinity there, and they know who you are, they know what you do, and they've got a general idea of how you can help them. So it's less of a cold call. People don't get on LinkedIn to be cold prospected. So you've got to work that relationship. It is a little bit of a slow play. It takes a while, but it can be very beneficial. I've gotten results off of it, and I've seen a lot of clients get results off of it if they do it right. But I'm going to give you a hack here. Now that I've talked about those methods, I'm going to give you a hack. Oh, one more thing. I am not a fan of cold texting. And I know that I'm a little bit of an outlier in the sales world right now, because there's a lot of people saying, man, if you get somebody's cell phone number, hit them with a text. People respond to texts. Not anymore. The amount of spam texts that are coming out, I've gotten 5 spam texts already today. And I will guarantee you, if you text me, I don't care what the hell you're selling, I'm probably not going to buy from you from a cold text, because there are a few things that look more spammy than a cold text. And again, that can be something that gets you blocked. And once you're blocked, you're done. So with all of that, I've said a lot of discouraging words here. Now let me be encouraging. The way that I would suggest, you actually have a great repository of data about how your target customers like to be contacted and what they're most likely to be respond to, and you're not using it. And that is your own current customer base. Let's assume for a moment that people in like roles tend to behave in like ways. And you can even break that down by demographic, by geography, and so forth. And there are blanket statistics out there that say millennials do this, or people in the printing industry do this. But I would encourage you to take a different route and actually integrate a question into your sales calls, into your current customers. And that question is this: Mr. Customer, I really value the relationship that we have, and I love it. I want to continue, but I have a question, and this is just market research purposes. Let's assume for a moment that you and I didn't know each other, and I was trying to prospect you just ice cold out of nothing. What would be the best method to get a hold of you? In other words, what communication platform are you most likely to respond to? And you will have some people say telephone, but and I'm going to go a little bit old tech on this. I'm going to say keep a spreadsheet of these. Put the responses into CRM too, but keep a spreadsheet on this and start building your database. And if you're a sales manager or company owner, you've got a real opportunity to do this, because have all of your salespeople do this. And keep a log of all of these. You can even code them, P for phone, or L for LinkedIn, or E for email, whatever. And you do this 10 times, you've got some good anecdotal ideas. Do it 50 times, you're starting to get a pattern. Do it a couple of 100 times, you've got a database you can work from. And when you have hard, actionable data, then you can turn around and build a prospecting outreach system based on what's most likely to get people's attention and to get a hold of them. And will that solve everything? Will that make prospecting just like it was 10 years ago when 1 out of 3 people were answering their phone? Probably not. But it'll at least narrow your path, and it'll give you a guide as to how to get to your prospects. Look, there are some industries where people still pick up the phone as they used to. There are some industries where a good old-fashioned door-pulling cold call is the best method. Great, do it. But if you really want to find the best path, understanding how much the waters of selling have changed, go ahead and interview your best data source, which is your current customers. It works out great. So that's your main issue. And you've got a little bit of a marching order from it, don't you? Take that question and start doing a large-scale survey of your customers. But now, let's go ahead and dive into my next section, and this might even be my favorite section of the show, From My Feed. First part of From My Feed, and that is probably one of the oldest concepts in sales and one of the most destructive to building productive relationships. If you're looking for a reason why only 3 people trust salespeople according to a HubSpot survey, The philosophy we're about to talk in is probably a good one. And this popped up on my LinkedIn feed, and I'll just read it to you. VP of Finance, I am the decision maker. My client, okay, anybody else involved in the decision? VP of Finance, nope, just me. My client, gotcha, so who would be signing the contract? You? VP of Finance, well, the CFO would be signing it. My client, and he doesn't have any role in the decision, even though he is the one signing the contract? VP of Finance, okay, that's a fair point. Yeah, he will be involved, but it will mostly be me. Now my client is scheduling time with the CFO, the actual decision maker, to align on the problems they're looking to solve and what his priorities would be. My mentor once told me to remember the acronym ABLAT. All buyers lie on all the time. Sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit reading that. Not because they mean to, not to be malicious, but to protect themselves, to feel safe, to allow trust to grow at their pace. We all do it as prospects too. We hide information, we avoid commitment, we make promises that we don't always keep. But those lies, omissions, or half-truths are the first step to a salesperson losing control of the process. Oh, good God, here we go with that control crap again. And being able to do their job effectively. Ask the next question, keep digging, carry a healthy skepticism, inspect what you expect, you've got this. Okay. So this comes from one of those sales gurus out there that he's just peddling crap that salespeople have been babbling about for 70 years. This all buyers lie all the time. Okay, here's the problem. And he actually got within spitting distance of the real issue when he talked about they're doing this to keep themselves safe, and they're doing this because they don't trust you yet. That's true. But this is what I call a defensive sales tactic. It's a fear-based sales tactic. And the idea is you are trying to protect yourself from customers, and you're keeping your guard up. And look, we can't expect our customer to extend trust if we don't. Now, the real problem, which he didn't uncover in this, is that he asked the wrong question. His client asked the wrong question. The wrong question is anyone else, well, actually, he first probably asked, who's the decision maker on this? Okay. And then he followed with, is anyone else involved in the decision? Okay, here's your problem. Those questions are very personal, very confrontational questions. What you're really asking is, are you important enough for me to be farting around with? Or do I need to really be talking to the big cheese? Okay. When you ask somebody a personal question, you're like that. You are challenging their authority, and when you challenge people's authority, they're always going to put their chests out and pop back and say, hey, you're damn right I'm the decision maker. If you don't think I'm important, what are you doing here? Okay, now, the client supposedly was able to get to finding out that the CFO probably is the real decision maker. And my ultimate advice would have been, because I'm a big believer in the start high philosophy, if this is something that involves the finance department, I would have wanted my salesperson to start their sales penetration at the CFO level rather than VP level. But that's water under the bridge. Sometimes you get to a point in a sale where you are, and you still need to understand who makes the decision. Here's how you ask that question so that it is non-confrontational and is much more likely to get the real honest answer, and that is this. So that we can make the best use of our time, could you describe the decision-making process here? Or you could modify it and say, could you describe the process by which this decision will be made? What you have done is you've depersonalized that question, and you've made it safe for that VP of Finance to say, well, I'm gathering the information, but ultimately my CFO is going to be the one who's really evaluating this. And then you know you're selling to the wrong person, and you can figure out a way, hopefully, to involve the CFO if you didn't begin by penetrating at that level. And I've seen this work in real time many, many times. One of the biggest was I had a salesperson about 25 years ago. We were getting ready to sell the very biggest account in the history of our branch. And he had asked this question of Lori, our contact, and she said, I select the vendor, but I can't sign the contract. Contracts are signed out of our corporate office, the legal department in Oklahoma. I select my vendor of choice, then I send it off. If they have to wrangle over any legal verbiage with you, they will, and then they'll sign the contract. So we went in forearmed into the proposal meeting. Our competitors on that deal asked if Lori was the decision maker, and she said correctly, yes. And so they actually went in with their proposal before we did, which not where I like to be. I like to be first, but they were. And they asked her, we found out about this later, they asked her to sign the contract, and she said no, she couldn't do that, and started explaining. And the salesperson, who probably saw this big commission check right there go, said, well, I thought you said you're the decision maker. Now he's confronting her. Got a little ugly. She kicked him out. We ended up walking in. My salesman, Ken, hands her the contract and says, well, are we your vendor of choice? She said, yep. We knew about the process that was happening, and everything went just fine. And that's the other thing. When you ask about process, sometimes you actually find out about procedural issues that affect the way that the contract or the deal is going to be handled that have nothing to do with who's the decision maker. So I encourage you, first of all, throw that ABLAT thing out. They can stick it up their butts, man. That's just dumb. And second of all, ask questions that depersonalize the decision-making process. You're much more likely to get an honest answer. Look, I hate this buyer's lie philosophy. Buyers lie to protect themselves from salespeople, but most of the time, the salespeople is letting them know ahead of time that they need to protect themselves. So if you follow the buyer's journey and respect the buyer as an intelligent, thinking human being and don't go in with that attitude, you're going to get a lot more truthful, honest, and correct answers that are going to guide you towards a successful solution than the ABLAT guys are going to do anytime. All bad salespeople lose all the time. There's my ABLAT. I just came up with that. So anyway, that's number one on From My Feed. Let's get to the next one. This is unusual because I left the name on this. This is by a guy named Kim Proctor. Ken is a Vistage chair. And Ken appears on my feed all the time. I respect the guy a lot. He's a speaker. He's a leadership guy. He's an executive coach, and man, just sharp as a tack. Really a guy that I love reading, and every now and then I'll learn something from. But here's what Kim posted. Does efficient also mean indifferent? Dear United Airlines, your fly is open. Not really, but you're acting this way. To be efficient, you're demonstrating indifference. Not every passenger wants to be directed to an online chatbot to solve an issue. I get it. Technology optimizes for speed, scale, and efficiency. Humans optimize for meaning, care, and connection. Caring equates to overhead. Calling the Premier line, I find that my wait is 75 minutes to speak to an agent. Please go to united.com for faster service. Automation over connection feels cold. Tech can help us do things faster, but only humans can make us feel heard. Okay, a couple of things to tell you, first of all. Number one, and Ken flies all the time, so I guarantee you that whatever flight rewards program United has, he's probably top tier on it or pretty close to it. And if he's getting 75-minute service, I shudder to think what Joe off the street's going to get from United. And I actually haven't flown United for about 10 years. Had some miserable experiences, and I said to hell with it. I'm actually flying them in a couple of weeks to get to and from Chicago because I've got a schedule to get back. I've got to get back because I have something to do on the evening after I speak, and United was the only one who could get me back here in time, assuming that they are on time. We'll find out. But this is an important topic, though, because one of the things that I always advise my clients on, and I'm going to advise you this too, I'm not a fan of auto attendants. I truly believe that whatever money you save in terms of not having a person or people to answer the telephone when people call is probably given back in terms of customer goodwill and customers who go elsewhere. And I'll tell you what, that story that Ken told, and he put it out on LinkedIn for everyone, if you knew that the helpline was an hour and 15 minutes, does that make you want to fly that airline? Does that make you feel like anybody gives a damn about you or whether or not you fly? Of course not. And full disclosure here, I am considering adding an online chatbot to my website, or even adding an AI avatar for Q&A. I like the technology. I can't decide if I want to do it. Hell, if you got a thought on that, drop it into the comments. Tell me what you think. What would you think if you went to my website, maybe even wanting to learn about my services, and you had a chatbot pop up, or even an AI avatar of me to have a conversation with you? I really would like to know. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm a one-man show. I've been that way ever since I started my business. I like being that way. It's the way I like to do things. But I also recognize that that means that there are times that people would like to get a hold of me that they can't, or maybe they need help interacting on my website and I'm not available to do it. So give me your thoughts on that. But I will give you a contrasting scenario. About 6, maybe 7 years ago, I was flying home from Dallas on Southwest, flying home from Love Field, one of my favorite airports. And I got home and my check bag didn't, which is kind of unusual with Southwest. Matter of fact, it might have been the only time that ever happened. And so, I get there, my bag doesn't come up. I went to the baggage office there and gave him my name, and she goes, "Oh, okay." She goes, "Well, I can tell you exactly what happened, Mr. Harrison." She said, "Your bag got bumped by Federal Cargo." I said, "What?" She said, "Well, most people don't know this, but there's an FAA rule that says that if Federal Cargo has to ship on a particular airplane, the feds have the right to bump baggage to get enough space to ship that Federal Cargo." She said, "Unfortunately, this plane had a lot of Federal Cargo to ship, and your bag was one of the ones that drew the short straw." She said, "However, here's the good news." She said, "It is being loaded onto the next flight up here." Southwest flies direct from Dallas to KC several times a day. She said, "It is being loaded and on the way, and it's going to be up here." And she said, "It'll be delivered to you, probably make it to your house between around 8:30 or so." I said, "Okay." So I went out and I had dinner and ran a couple errands. I got home, it was about 8:30, no bag. And so I decided to pull out the little pink ticket and call the helpline, baggage helpline. I wasn't particularly worried, but still. So I called the baggage helpline and I heard, "Southwest Baggage, this is Brenda, may I help you?" And I didn't go through press 1 to get to baggage. No, it was "Southwest Baggage, this is Brenda, how can I help you?" And I went, "You sound like a real person." She goes, "Well, I hope I'm a real person. I'm sitting here." And she was laughing, and I said, "Well, I didn't expect that. I expected the press 1 for this." And she goes, "Yeah, I get that a lot." And she was able to tell me. She goes, "No," she said, "your bag has actually just been loaded on a van. Should be to your place in 30 to 45 minutes. Sure enough, about 20 minutes after the end of that phone call, there it was. So that to me is the difference in service. If you answer the phone, particularly on a line where people are going to be calling with problems, you're making a statement that says, "I care about you. I care whether or not you do business." If you are saying, "It's going to be an hour before we get around to talking to you, but go to our website, just leave us the hell alone," you're sending a completely different message. What I would encourage you to do, because most of my clients are in the small to medium-sized business space, think through what hoops you're asking your customers to do to talk to you. And I don't think any small to medium-sized business, unless it's only a one-man shop like me, should ever have the auto attendant press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Answer the damn phone. So those are my thoughts on that. Of course, obviously curious what your thoughts are. And now let's go to the third part of From My Feed. This one's a cartoon. You got the salesperson looking at his CRM, and he's looking pretty down. Last activity 2 weeks ago. So a couple of days later, he'll send the classic "I'm just checking in" email. Boring, right? Don't ever send a "just checking in." I'm guilty, okay? I've done this a couple of times. There may even be somebody watching this that's had me do it. But when you email people to try to move a process along, do your best to have something new to add to the conversation. Bring another piece of information to it. Then he says, "Well, just wanted to check your pulse on our conversation." A few days after that, I hope you've not forgotten me." And then finally, Salesperson gets blocked. Okay, so where did we go wrong here? Well, first of all, his follow-ups were terrible. Don't ever use the word just. Okay, when you use the word just, you are taking away all the importance of anything that you were trying to say. If you are trying to sell them something, it should be important to them, not just you. So you're not just doing anything. I am emailing you to see if you're ready to take advantage of these benefits that our product offers. Whatever. Make it something strong. Or, hey, I just found something out about this product. I didn't even know this, but here's another piece of information you can have. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is that the salesperson let a conversation die. Probably had a good appointment, left smiling, thinking, man, that guy's going to be all over this. And what happened is he left without a designated next step. Once you start somebody down a buyer's journey, you need to be establishing the next step at the end of the current step. In other words, when you end an appointment, whether it is in person or telephone or Zoom or whatever, at the end of that appointment, set the next appointment. Even if you know you've got a task to perform that's going to take a few days. Okay, I've got to get a proposal together. It's going to take me a couple of days. How about we meet again next Tuesday at 10 o'clock? If they refuse to set a next step, they are sending you a message. They're saying that I'm not all that interested, and then you get dropped into the chase cycles, which this poor sap did. Stay out of the chase cycle by continuing to set the next appointment at the end of the current appointment. And if you do, you will probably get more buyers' journeys to their fruition. And even if you don't, if customers refuse to, they are opting out of their buyer's journey, which tells you you can stop putting headspace into this, you can stop looking at your CRM, and you can move on to the next one. So either way you go, that's a win. Set the next appointment at the end of the current appointment. So there's from my feed this week. And if you've hung on for this long, and I hope you have, it's time for your quick win. Here's your quick win for today. And it doesn't matter if you are a manager or a business owner or a salesperson. In communication, always remember the rule of three. The rule of three says that the optimum amount of reasons to do anything, whether it is to for a buyer to consider buying something, or for a manager to create coaching points, the optimum amount is three. In other words, let's say that you have a piece of technology that somebody needs to buy, and you want to create a very memorable presentation, and you've got a laundry list of benefits for them. You got a bunch of advantages that they'll gain. Take the three that most match their needs, that match the most important needs, and center your presentation around three, because three will stick. Four will overwhelm, two won't seem like enough. Now, you managers, if you're coaching, sometimes you'll go out and you'll coach a salesperson, you'll come back and you'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 things that they really need to change to hit their success. Prioritize. Take the three most important and coach to those. Fix those and then come back and coach on the next three, because if you go over three, you're going to overwhelm your salespeople. When you are communicating, when you are trying to persuade people, whether it is manager coach, whether it is salesperson customer, whether it is CEO to manager, the rule of three is a great technique because it allows you to keep your guidance short and simple. It allows you to keep your sales presentations memorable and sticky. And quite frankly, it allows you to win a lot more. So there's your quick win for this week. And with that, I'm going to bring this episode to a close. Everyone, thank you so much for watching the Navigator's Log, Episode 7. Yes, I'm claiming the first 6 episodes of Sales Without the BS as part of this series, because it's basically a similarly formatted show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a problem with anything I've said, or if you agree with what I said, or just want to discuss it more, drop me a comment down below and let's discuss it. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell so you get alerts every time I drop new content, because I'm going to be dropping new content all the time. Like it, share it, all of those things. Thank you so much, everyone. That's been the Navigator's Log. I'm Troy Harrison, the Sales Navigator, and I'll see you next time.